organized by Football Queensland. And yeah, really welcome. Obviously, you should know already the topic, which is coach development within the club. We'll have two special guests tonight. One is Craig Midgley from Gold Coast United, and the second one is Ray Dove from Football Queensland. So yeah, really nice to have them on board today. And look, I'll start straight away with sharing my screen with a quick presentation, and then we'll start straight away. If you could please mute your mic in the meantime, so to avoid all the noises, and then obviously please feel free to join in at any time. I would like to remind you a couple of things before we start, which is basically the session is recorded for professional development purposes, and to be shared also with other TDs that could not attend tonight. The second thing is that we have invited also community clubs TDs to these meetings. So yeah, it's a good opportunity to have them involved, and maybe to even hear their voice during the night. We aim to finish everything in 1 hour and a half, the latest, hopefully a little bit earlier. I know it's a difficult time where you are trying to juggle with football training, webinars, and this kind of stuff. So conscious of that, we'll try to fly basically. But yeah, hopefully at the same time we'll have some nice discussions along the way. Yeah, once again, please mute your mic because okay, so we'll start straight away. Obviously, hold on a sec. Cool. So as I mentioned, two main guests tonight, Ray Dove, Craig Midgley, and the topic is coach development within the club. So I basically would like to briefly introduce myself and my role at Football Queensland, because I've been asked to do so by many people, and I take this opportunity to do a quick overview basically about what I'm gonna do up in Brisbane once I get there. Then we'll have the two presentations, as I mentioned, coach development within the club with Craig, and the role of the mentor, Ray Dove, which will share with us her experience at QAS, but also overseas with the program that FIFA put in place. And then we finish up with some reflection. Cool. So basically, my role, the definition is lead club development ambassador in the area of the coaching. Top Laxton will be basically the same in the area of talent ID. Two main areas that I'll be working on. One obviously is the club development, and the second one is the coach development. So within the club development, I'll be working on the club assessment and the assistant to bring to help the clubs to reach better standards. And you all know that basically we are working towards this process, which is assessing the clubs and providing assistance along the way to as I said, to bring them to the next level. It's a journey, and it's something that we'll do together. Once again, it's not something that we want to do. Guys, you are wrong. You have to do this, this, and this. No, we want to do a picture of your clubs, then sit down together and find solutions to improve things and to do things better. At the moment, I'm also working on the sub-CC, which is basically the skill acquisition phase for the community clubs as well, which will be implemented in the next couple of months. And then obviously other leader projects along the way. So the second area, as I mentioned, is also the coach development. And in that area, we'll have the delivery of the advanced coaching courses, obviously workshops, webinars, conferences, which is the formal formal coach development or the development of the coaches, and obviously I play also a role as a mentor for some coaches. There is also another area which is still part of the coach development, which is the internally. So basically, I've been working closely with the TDMs, with Football Queensland staff and the TSP staff, to see how we can raise the standard once again and work together, providing assistance, help, and anything needed to do things how they should be done. And at the same time, I'll be work closely with the coach developers. And in that role, there are also some TDs involved tonight. So it's an ongoing development, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to know more and more people a little bit better, and work together to increase the capacity of the coach developers in terms of numbers, but also to really once again, I wouldn't say upskill, but work together, because it's a reciprocal development. That's how I see things, to do things better for Football Queensland, for football in Queensland, and for football in Australia overall. So a few things that we'll be working on is keep the standard of the advanced coaching courses where they are, and possibly even better. Working closely with a few people, maximize the potential of coaches, TDs, and at the same time maximize the potential of the coach developers. One big aspect of our work is obviously to increase the number of coaches and increase their retention in the game. So that's an objective, a target that we have clear in mind, and we'll be working very hard to achieve that. And obviously there is also some ongoing support and mentoring where possible. But the two main areas are these ones. So basically, assist the clubs with their development to make clubs better, and make the existing coach developer network the best in Australia. That's the two big targets that we have in our mind, and I'm pretty sure that with the help of TDs and coaches, there will hopefully achieve some good results. So this is it for me. Now we can jump on unless you have any specific question about what was presented so far. Otherwise, we can move on. Any question, guys? So good. So hopefully that will make the clear a little bit, the picture a little bit clearer. Okay, I'm gonna stop. So the first topic, obviously mentioned before, is Craig Midgley, coach development within the club. He has a presentation to share with us, and I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and let him share it. Cool. Craig, just unmute yourself, because I just mute everyone, and we can go. Craig?
Better. You can hear me now.
Yeah, now we can. Yeah, we're good. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, this. Okay, guys. Obviously, thanks, David, for the opportunity to present something. I've got a session in 20 minutes, so hopefully I'll fly through this. Look, obviously, coach development within a club. I thought I'd just give an example of a workshop that we've just run on Monday. We run a series of coaching workshops throughout the year with the coaches. So This is just an example of the coach shop we did. I do think it's vitally important that as TDs or anybody who's in, sort of heading up a program, you do try and get your coaches on the same page as much as you can. So we don't get a lot of time together, so these workshops are crucial. And it's hard during the season to ask for coaches for more time sometimes when they're training 3-4 nights a week, and then you've got to fit workshops in. So it's difficult, but in this last 3 or 4 Mondays, we've used that time to do these workshops. So I'll just fly through it quite quickly. And so the outcomes, a little bit about the journey as a player would go on, the practice spectrum that we're working on, a little bit of how we deliver, our methodology on how we deliver a session and design it, and then a little bit on how I can support the coaches within our club. So that was the agenda as such. And we spoke about the long-term journey. So from an under-9, we want players from under-9s all the way through until they get to senior football to really have a journey that's imprinted in our team model and our playing style. So the little slogan there, the little slogan is, hopefully every year that they're with us, it's building them into a player who can play at the highest level or play a style of football that's modern day football and like a lot of us are trying to develop. So that's what the Gold Coast team model, Gold Coast United team model. It's easy to preach and it's easy to have it written down in a flashy PowerPoint, but actually getting 20 odd coaches to really grasp it and buy into it and deliver it is obviously the hard part. So we talk about the team model every time we get together. It's my opportunity to keep everybody on their toes as such, but just develop them into understanding it more clearly, which is difficult, but can be done. So we had a big discussion, the debate out there on what technique or skill, what do we spend a lot of time on to start with. So the old isolated practice comes in, and we sort of decide that with the 3 nights a week we've got them, for the 90 minutes we have them, we're leaning a lot towards the skill side. So being able to execute skill under pressure, decision making, as we know. So really try and dwell into the coaches to try and veer away from this isolated technique. Too much time on that. We have to get quicker into decision making, small-sided games, something that relates to a game. We do know how important that is, though. The isolated, we always have this debate about how important technique is, isolated technique. So we've, we invested in an app in the off season. I'll just try and, I've got it somewhere here. I'll just show you. It's not going to come up, is it? So. That's all right. I'll get back to you next. Anyway, it's called My Personal Football Coach Team App, and it's a really good. Oh, here it is. So, just a good, a development tool that we've said. Look, your 4th contact a week for us is going to be through this application. So, if you can, the age-related programs relate to our SAP program, and then going into our MPL program. So it's just a user pay. The club invested in it for every player from ages 9 all the way up to 18s, and it just gives them a lot of sessions there with video content where they can do it in the back garden. It's a 40-minute session, 2 times 20-minute sessions, but it's all ball mastery and things that they should be doing, and we need them to do, but we're not going to dwell on this within our 3 nights of training. We just don't think we've got enough time to dwell on it. So we put the emphasis back on these guys to do. The 4th session is from this application that we've that we bought for them, and the feedback's been brilliant on that. So it's, you know, it's got videos, it breaks it down, breaks the technique down. So that's what we use for our sort of isolated technique. Let me just go out of that one now, go back in. Okay, so that was a bit of discussion on that, because it's still out there that. All right, am I sharing there, David?
It actually stopped the video.
Let me go back into it.
Okay, now you are back on. Yeah, load again the other one.
Yeah. Okay, so you know the debate's still out there, but as a group of coaches, you said, look, let's get into the decision making very, very quickly within our sessions. So that's a big thing we emphasise. And then we look at the type of practices. So, constant practices, we try and stay away from them. We understand that there is benefits from that side of practice, but we try to get into random and variable practices as soon as we can. This has been crucial with the coaches, because it took quite a long time to try and get this to really sink in, which is still ongoing. But we feel that the variable practices and random practices are going to be a lot more beneficial for our players in the 3 nights a week we've got them to become better decision-making players, really. So, I mean, that's just a slide from anywhere, but I'll just sort of pinch that. But so what does the implications of the coach? And we keep talking about, you've got to be able to manipulate things and be able to see things that need changing. And, you can design the session and let the session be the teacher just by really observing whether you've got these type of things right. And this doesn't include any isolated training. It's more straight into game-related situations. This is a big one that we as a group of coaches and myself massively believe in, that if you set the right challenge, and this is experience from coaches being able to see this, but if you can set the right challenge for players, we believe you can teach intrinsic desire. So if the challenge is way too high, and you do a 5v4 in a 10 meter by 10 meter box with under 12s, they're very rarely going to keep possession. So if you did that with Barcelona or Warren Moon's Brisbane team, they might be able to keep possession. But so coaches have got to realise that they've got to observe to make sure that the challenge is right for the players that they've got. And if you get the challenge where it's not too easy and it's in reach and they can nearly get there, that'll really, the intrinsic desire will be within to keep going. I'm nearly getting there, and they'll strive at it. As soon as you get the challenge too far or too easy, then the players lose interest, and observing that within your game and your session is something that I've witnessed within my coaches. They need to do more of. Sometimes, yeah.
I have a question, and that's a very interesting topic, and that's a challenge for all the coaches. My question is, how can you help your coaches to identify that? What do you provide feedback? Do you sit down with them after the session, during the session? How do you mentor them in this regard?
Yeah, so I'll at the end of this, I'll just show you a little bit of their plans on how we give them some feedback on it. But it's like I'm a broken record. They need to observe the session more and make sure that what you've got written down in your session plan. Sometimes that changes, depends on a lot of things. So if you get coaches who can observe the session and understand their players and know what their players are capable of, then they can. The challenge should be, they should be able to modify it to get the challenge. So. So David, I'll come to that in how we actually help them with that.
Yeah, all good. All good. Yeah, keep going.
massive one is this one with your coaches, leaders of coaches, how we teach and the styles. So this is a massive one for me on coming up. There is a place and there's probably a time for command style coaching, but especially with younger players, they are more discovery, as we know, and trying player centered, get stuff out of players, let them talk to you, set challenges. That's the delivery style that, as a group of coaches, and we say this all the way through the club, not just at the younger ages. I'd be comfortable taking a senior team, and I could still stay away from the command style coaching. But again, it's experience, but what I try to do is try and give the coaches, we want our coaches to be player led and include players and not too much Q&A sometimes, because it gets a Q&A fest and that can take you off track, but certainly feedback and guided discovery and more challenge based is what we're after. Massive one for a lot of the feedback I find with coaches still within my setup is we try and give a lot of information, and it's not all about that. It's the quality over the quantity. So we talk about that. We've talked about the challenges, and still, we talk about it on courses, and I always say on a course that if you can't deliver and demonstrate and have a good quality demonstration with good clear words and pictures, then that's going to struggle as an effective coach. You've got to be able to deliver well when you're giving players feedback, if you're going to intervene. So we work really hard on the intervention process. I know we smash it on the courses, but the course is only one little thing. Actually bringing it to life and week in, week out, probably the most important thing I dwell on is when you say freeze and stop the session, what quality comes out of your mouth, and does that relate to our playing style, our beliefs, our sort of way forward. So that's a big one. And then we finished it. There's 2 or 3 more workshops coming up, just to give you the one next week, or a couple of weeks' time, is more a bit of parent education. So, we don't want the parents being around everything, but I think giving the parents a little bit of information on the methodology of how we're trying to coach your kids and why we're not, shouting on the sidelines all the time, why we're asking for feedback from players. A bit of education for parents, I think, is crucial. So that'll be me delivering it. I do think us guys as TDs, I think it's important we do deliver and we set we sort of set the tone. Whether it's good or bad, I still think we're the ones who are the mentors, and we should be, showing good examples, best practice, and then pass it on down the track, down to your coaches. Sorry, Tommy, I've put you down in there, mate. That's not confirmed yet, but I did want an input from you, Tom, on the one down the bottom. So that's it for that. So just going back to your question, David. I just want to get this back up. So look, this is straight out of FFA's advanced coaching courses, but I still think it's very relevant to what we're doing. So obviously coach development plans. So certainly this year more so than probably last year, we've sort of really, I'm going to work more with individual coaches to try and develop them. And the way we do it here is literally we just give them areas of we work from the 3 pillars from the coaching courses. So the training pillar of how you're doing that, and give them a bit of feedback. So there's self-reflection in there for the coaches to self-reflect, and then there's comments that they can put it in, and then I'll sit down with them once they've completed this, and areas where they want to improve. The areas where they want to improve mostly is all around the conduct. So I've done this with 4 of the coaches so far, and it's all about, they want to know how effective they are when they're delivering, and it seems to be a lot around that. So I will, the action plan at the bottom for Shane, for instance, was video 3 of his sessions, and then he self-reflects on 2 of them and brings that with him to our meeting, and then I will watch one of the videos and give him feedback on that myself. So that's the way we've started to do it this year, coaching more training sessions and getting sort of them to self-reflect, and then myself sort of doing a little mock assessment on one of their sessions, I suppose, throughout the. It's hard because it's fitting the right time to do it, where it's you get around, I've got 24 coaches, so it's difficult. But I've got to admit, the buy-in to this from the coaches, who I've always been hesitant because of the time that I'm asking from them. The buy-in's been, I've got guys who are getting to the older part of their careers, but they still want this feedback. They still want to know how they're doing. They still want to learn. So, as I will do is really try and improve that individual coach. And this is a way we do it. We get them to feedback, self-reflect, and then based on that, I'll sit down with them and we'll go through it and have a real practical sort of mock assessment to give them some more feedback. So they've got to be responsible as well for their learning. I'm not chasing them. I tell them, if you want to get this back into me, I'll support you and help you. I don't make it a compulsory requirement. But like I said, the take-up's been great so far, and so that's how I would do it, David, as an example. And as most of you guys know, I deliver courses, so I feel this year that I probably could do more with the coaches. Based on me being an advanced instructor, I could do more. So I'm doing a lot less on the field. I'm doing more off the field with coaches this year to try and upskill them. I think I've got a real good bunch of coaches this year, over the last couple of years. So I'm going to spend a lot more time in developing the coach and best as I can.
Look, I have one observation to share with the group, which is important. That is obviously having coaches that are willing to learn and are asking your feedback. It's crucial, because if they want to learn, as you mentioned, that's the starting point. And then I have a question. Do you also do like model session for your coaches to observe and they can take away something of it, or you prefer not to?
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I said, I don't think I've done enough of that in the past, but certainly. So next week, where I said it's the parent night. That's actually a coach/parent night. So I think it makes you vulnerable as well as a TD. And what I will do is, I'll make it a bit of a laugh and a bit of banter. But I want the coaches to assess myself, and then once they've gone through that process with me, then they know that that's the process, with all of us. I think a big key part of creating the culture within a coaching group, you've got to have that little environment where, coaches, like on courses, you get nervous, you with your peers, sometimes it's hard to deliver when you're in front of other coaches. So I think I'm trying to create an environment where we're happy to, all assess Shane Robinson on the video, and we get 20 people giving him feedback. That's sort of a safe environment where it doesn't matter if you fuck it up. It doesn't matter. You just we're all there trying to get better, and that's. But like you said, David, I certainly do deliver, and in the past it's been small deliveries, so 25 minutes, 30 minutes with one team, because you want to try and get around as many teams as you can. I think sometimes it's better just to designate yourself with a team for a night
and maybe invite other coaches in so they can, unless they've got training, and they can all observe, even if maybe.
Yeah, that's the dilemma we all have, isn't it? It's, it's when you put these sessions on, there's always some coaches who are going to miss out. It's always, but we can video the sessions these days, and what we've just locked in is, because we get that many wet weather days down here on the coast, we've decided that the next few wet weather nights we'll all be in to do more of this stuff. So it's certainly gone up a notch. I've myself, I've really taken it up another notch this year because I think the audit has give everybody a little bit of a kick up the arse and making sure we're on his toes. So, there's no reason why I shouldn't be delivering a lot of this good coach development for the coaches in my club. And, I know a lot of you guys on here now, I'm happy to help anybody sort of thing. So, but yeah, that's what a little snapshot of what we're doing at our club and how we're trying to mentor coaches. And it's about 60% to where I'd like it to be, but we're certainly on the right track, I think,
Craig, thanks for sharing that, especially, the coach development plan. It's critical. And you mentioned a couple of times the individual development plan, with the emphasis on the individuals rather than to everyone. It's very important. So yeah, thanks for that. I want to hear from the floor. Any question, guys? Before Mijli can go and deliver his session.
Yeah, hi David, it's John Murphy here.
Hi John.
Hi Craig, thank you very much for sharing that information. I know spoke to you quite a bit of that, certainly the 18 months that I've spent with yourself as well. I just wanted to, it's a general question really, but probably before you go, Craig, you could probably throw your own weight around it, and probably more so for David, an FQ thing really. Looking at the sort of modern day coach, and Craig, you do a lot of coach education. I've certainly done a lot of coach education in my past, and started to deliver it here as well. But how do you feel about when we're guiding coaches through a learning journey? Certainly at the football clubs, it's not so much about the competence them at the football clubs. It's more about them as a coach and as a whole. And I'm really interested in looking at coaches from, this is the value of our club. This is how we operate. So this is how an example might be. So in a four-corner model, this is how our first team look, and we layer this all the way down, right through all our programs, right down to children, around about this holistic type model. And then we sort of layer it for our coaches as well. So I was just interested in the comments, first from you, Craig, but certainly then from you, David, from an FQ point of view. What are your thoughts on actually for coaches and their sort of development and their learning plans, if you like, about modelling on the actual model of the football club, which will lead me to another question later as well. Craig, first, please.
Yeah, no, and obviously working with you, John, and I got as much out of working with you as I hope you got with me. So, Brisbane City, really lucky up there. You've got Smithy, a good guy. But yeah, look, going back to your point, I think it's crucial. I think we talk about a club model over a coach's model. So if I lose 3 coaches next year through whatever reason, they go on to better things, for instance, we should be bringing coaches in based on have they got the qualities of and the philosophy and the mindset that suits our club model. That's a big one. I think you need to try and find coaches and develop coaches who buy into what your team model and your club philosophy is.
Yes.
And I think based on the fact as well that we don't have a lot of professional coaches. I've got coaches who've got full-time jobs in other. This is virtually a hobby for them, and so it's also difficult to get 15, 20 coaches who've all got the experience with what financially we're paying them as well. they've got they tick all the boxes. So
Yeah.
I think it's crucial that we are really holistically, all our coaches should know what our under-9's doing. I want my first team coach knowing what the under-9 program looks like, the production line that we have. So again, coach education within a club, every coach should understand the whole syllabus throughout the whole club and how it links into our team model. And as you know, John, doing that it takes a long time, and it's but crucial that every coach is on a journey to understand that club's model and the age-related developments within it.
Yeah, cheers, Greg. And David, just picking up that, and certainly on a Football Queensland role, because obviously, you know, you were as important to all the football clubs here in Queensland. So in terms of your assessment and your criteria, and then you know, forgetting everybody who does a coaching course and they're deemed competent at that level. I get all that, but how do we, or how will you, as a future model, differentiate with you know, with all the different coaches at different levels, different experiences within that? Because that's really, you know, in the new model of football, that's really going to be critical for coach development.
Yeah, look, first of all, I'll start answering the first question, linking with what Craig said. I think the coach's selection is very important, because you can have, you know, through an interview or a bit of time spent together, you can have an understanding about how that coach thinks, and if it's in line with your thinking and the value, and linking to the values of your club. Then obviously it's very important to, let's say, educate or develop those coaches within your environment, with the methodology that you want to use, and basically keep working together to bring those coaches to another level. So coaches selection, and then obviously upskill of those coaches, educate those coaches, developing those coaches, how do you want to call it? It's I think it's irrelevant, and provide a coach development plan for them. So basically, if you enter this club, you know that there is a path in front of you, and we work together to go through that path. Answering, I don't know if I answered the first question, but John, let me know if you're happy with that.
No, you did, and that's some of the things that, you know, like development plans and ILPs for coaches and all that. They're as important, if not more important, than players. And the most important thing is obviously the footballers, but the coach development is really important. And Craig's quite right to point out there. In some cases, we're probably working with volunteers, and it's so hard so the differentiation in terms of the support that they get is really because if they get too much, obviously it's a minefield, and we may lose the sport may lose them.
Yeah, but look, it's working with individuals. You work with people, you know, they might have limited commitment. You know, they got a life, they got a work, and you need to work around them. So around those issues, obviously your demand will change based on their availability, their time, their commitment, and so on. In terms of how we will assess coaches in your own environment, well, I think it's very simple. If we can see that, you know, the coach and the club creates a good environment for the players, that's for us the most important thing. Then, you know, obviously we can go really in detail and bring in how they intervene, how they talk. Okay, fair enough. But if a coach creates a good environment for the players that he's coaching, that's probably the most important thing, and it's a big value to us, you know. And basically, if we see that he knows what he's doing, it's fine. We are not, you know, because every coach is different, every club is different. And to us, if the coach and the club satisfy the players' requirement of learning and challenge, and that's a plus for us.
David, thank you very much. Thank you,
No
Craig,
worries.
as well. And just finally, because I don't want to steal anybody else's time here, because there's a lot of people here. May I suggest I've been here just over 2 years, and one of the things that I would like as a coach and a coach educator is more contact time, which is like driven by Football Queensland. And I know it's very hard to get everybody there, the amount of football everybody does once it's operating. But I think you have a huge pool of knowledge here. I'm looking on the screen now, and there's lots of knowledge here, and some key people. Most of the people don't know anyway, but certainly there's about half a dozen people here that I know, and I think you need to look at that as a pool of education that can share and get your wider messages out to the wider public, not just here in Brisbane and Gold Coast, but certainly the wider community.
Yeah, no, look, John, absolutely. And it's one of our target I showed you before, to basically expand the coach developers network and make our voice even more present if possible. So yeah, no doubt we'll be working on that.
Okay, thank you on behalf of Brisbane City. Thank you.
No worries, pleasure. Guys, any other question? Otherwise, we'll jump on Ray presentation. Craig, feel free to go if you have to.
It's all right, mate. They're cracking on themselves.
Okay, look, I will. Yeah, questions?
Sorry. Yeah. Hey, Craig. Thanks for the presentation, mate. Well done. One of the things you talked about a lot then was the more formal side of the coach mentoring process, with a lot of volunteers and stuff like that. For example, do you have any recommendations on maybe an informal coaching mentoring process that you might do, or have you got much experience with that side of things before?
Like what? Give me your suggestion.
Yeah, so instead of the formal process, if you have just that sort of half an hour with a coach after a session and you're just doing a bit of a power, how could you do that session differently next time, or stuff like that? Have you had much experience sort of doing that instead of doing the formalized process with coaches before? Or?
Yeah, probably more so. That's been my method.
Yep.
And I'm probably thinking you don't get as much quality maybe just having 20 minutes, half an hour, quick feedback rather than, I mean, that's great. And that's, coaches will always like that bit of support there. But I think we need to start really formalizing that feedback. And that's why videoing training sessions and giving some really critical feedback, because that's what they want. That's something that I'm certainly going to do a lot more of. Previously, I've been more of the, get to training, flit around 4 or 5 coaches, give a little bit of feedback here, there and everywhere, and how much actually sinks in and how much to do. So probably more formalised now is where me as a TD has to go. But yeah, I'm very informal, as a lot of you know. I'm very informal. So yeah.
Cool. Anybody else who wants to share their way how to provide feedback to coaches, or other ways how to potentially improve them? Okay, everyone quiet. Let's move on then. I'll have a quick task for you guys. 2 minutes of reflection about what's your understanding of mentoring. What does mentoring means in your mind? Just think about that in the next couple of minutes. And possibly list down a couple of examples of mentoring activities that you currently do in your club. So Craig obviously shared a few of those activities. If you have anything in mind, just write them down and we'll discuss after Ray's presentation. Hopefully some of you will surprise us at the end of it. because as I said, sharing we are here to see how we can implement new methods or new methodology. So there is no right or wrong, you know. So with this one in mind, I would love to introduce Ray Dove, which will present on the role of the mentor. I stop sharing, and Ray is all yours.
Thank you very much, David. I'll just,
no worries.
Same, I'll just bring mine up. Midge, that's the definition of success for yourself there. If you're there's time to head off home and have a shave, I think. But thank you very much for that, Midge. That was awesome. Obviously had the pleasure of doing a number of courses with you with the FFA, and I do like that you bring, as you said, that you bring that banter style along with within your coaching courses as well. I think that's very important. As you say, we do a very high volunteer coaching fraternity within our clubs, and I think it's very important that you do keep it sometimes a little bit humorous and keep people enjoying themselves, because let's face it, we're not all doing it for the money. So but David, just on the back of your question there, it might be interesting. I might shake it up before I sort of put out what I feel definitely is a bit of a misnomer, not only in football, obviously in the business world. If anyone wants to throw out what they think like a definition is of mentoring. Anyone?
Yeah, hi Ray. I'll dive in there because I just wrote down there on the back of David's comments there. I think it's just listening to other people, listening to Craig as well, and getting a more measured understanding of where coaches are coming from professional coaches on this screen to literally volunteers. I think it's just for me, it's quite simple. It's just help and support, really. It's going back to really basic human instincts about how I help and how I support, how I dialogue it with you and communicate it with you, and how I help your development, and sometimes it's about how are you doing? Are you okay? And then at the end of it, certainly for me, it's understanding people. Where are they? Are they an A licensed coach or a technical director, or are they're just starting out on the journey? It's empathy, isn't it? I think it's a human thing, really.
Yeah, classic. I think that's actually really refreshing to hear, because I think a lot of times, as I've said there, sort of this is a definition, if you like, that I've come to over probably a decade or so. In relation to doing sort of mentoring, but it really is, it's a relationship. It's that positive supportive relationship between two people. I think you use the word, I think, reciprocal at one stage there, Midge, and it really is. It is a reciprocal relationship. People can learn from each other. It doesn't have to always be an older person passing down the wisdom to a younger person or a less experienced person. So I think that's important, and that sharing of knowledge, I think, is really important. So it's sharing experiences, sharing. It's just like the player example with coaches. Obviously, we're trying to help our players and staff to reach their full potential. To with that authenticity, we're leading them to find that greatness within themselves, to realise their potential and realise their dreams. So it's the same kind of process. It's really just a journey with that relationship of discovery and learning. So it's really refreshing to hear a different version, because it often is, as I said, it often brings about thoughts of it being a really formalised process. Somebody who's really old having to have it like a sponsor or a protege or something like that. So a few other things in relation to, you know, what I think it kind of is it's really, as you touched on there, it's the desire to help others without that reward. Like the reward is that intrinsic reward of helping somebody and helping them towards their goals. I think that's a really important aspect of it. And to build that kind of relationship takes time. I think that's also important. It doesn't happen overnight. It actually takes time to build that trust, to be able to have that openness and share that dialogue and really bring about that authenticity. And it's then that willingness to share, so positive, great examples, but also, as you mentioned, Midge, it's also about making yourself vulnerable. So actually sharing the times, you know, that you stuffed it up, and put your hand up and share those examples, and, you know, what you did then maybe to, you know, fix that and improve it next time. So it's that whole self-reflection process like that. And I think that the failures are really important, as we know, with having that ability to be able to look outside and extend yourself. That's that real growth and the learning opportunities happening. I think one of the other things is in terms of availability. So it does take time. So you have to actually make a commitment to somebody else if you do want to be a mentor to them. You've actually got to take the time, know that you've got the time available to spend with them, and it's also taking the time for the mentee then to actually seek out that assistance. So I often say to people that I mentor, it'll be as much or as little as you want. So I'll give you as much or little as you want. You know, you come to me and tell me what it is that you want to get out of the experience or out of the interaction. And I think that's a really important aspect, is that it is mutual. It's taking that mutual responsibility and that accountability of actually having the ability to impart that knowledge, but also making the time for that person. I think that the growth mindset aspect, you know, being open to new learnings, you know, being curious, as making sure that that is a reciprocal, mutual, you know, relationship where you can learn off each other. I think that's important. I think the other thing is that what it does is it actually builds your own capacity and builds your own skill, because, you know, you do have to really practice active listening. You have to practice a lot of self-reflection and then delivering feedback. So it's not only talking about maybe that time when you stuff something up yourself and how you had that reflection to actually, you know, improve the next time, but it's actually you and delivering feedback to the coaches. So I think, I think that's a really crucial aspect, and the fact that it really is a mutual relationship and it is all about people skills, I think is really, really important. We touched on a few different kinds of mentoring, talked about obviously informal. Obviously we're doing this very much at the moment. We've done a lot of this in the last probably 3.5, 4 months, but virtual. So, you know, there's been a lot of virtual mentoring taking place. To face, I think, Briac, you mentioned, you know, sitting down having a coffee, just having a really informal chat, and, you know, just asking, yeah, exactly, are you okay? I noticed that you know, you haven't been yourself, you know, lately, is everything all right? Just once you've built the trust and been able to build that openness to be able to have those conversations, I think you can actually go to a deeper level of being able to help each other to become better. Peer to peer, this is something that we're obviously doing now as well. Every time we're on a virtual presentation, we're talking to each other, we're all peers. So, you know, even though the rank system here is Gabor's our technical director, you know, there's no rank and file. We're actually all peers, we're all colleagues, and we're all ready to, you know, assist each other and help each other. And I think that's actually a really important aspect as well. Probably
Thanks.
my bad too.
Right, thanks for mentioning that word, peer, critical. We'll touch on that later. Fantastic.
Yeah. And my bad probably too, I was too busy telling Midge to have a shave, but if anyone has got any questions at all, please don't wait till the end. Please put your hand up. As I said, this is very informal in terms of, you know, what we wouldn't try and get out of the process. Another aspect, I think, in terms of for coaching, because obviously the game that we play is there's some technical obviously elements around coaching. So in terms of, it's what you want out of it in terms of, it might be a relational kind of matters. It might be how to have those awkward conversations with parents, have those awkward conversations with players that the mentee, wants from the situation, and what they, what they want to actually achieve, what their end goal is, short-term goals into their long-term plans. But it really is something that is dependent upon what they're actually trying to get. Everyone concentrates an awful lot of the technical in terms of the actually on the pitch, the delivery. But there's so much more, as we know, coaching players and mentoring and leading staff goes a lot further, extends a lot further than the pitch, the dugout, and the change room. So that's actually a really important aspect. Any questions so far? Nope. Cool. All right. So as Davide said, I was lucky enough to be one of 21 coaches from around the world. I think there's about 180 coaches applied, and we had like about a 15, 16 month mentor program with FIFA. So we had an opportunity there to go to Zurich on a couple of occasions and have a workshop with everyone together, the mentees and the mentors. Then we also had opportunity, we had work in between, and then we had the opportunity to catch up with each other, obviously over the phone. Majority of us were all in different parts of the world, so over the phone, via Skype, via different methods, and to be able to work out some goals that we wanted to achieve and to move forward. Now that was obviously very, very different for all of the participants, for all the mentees. That the actual process was very, very different. It was in the lead up to a World Cup, so we had probably the top 6 countries at the time. All of those coaches were involved in obviously planning for a World Cup, preparation, camps, friendlies. So it was trying to find the time in and around that to get together and to be able to, to take something out of the process. So that's us at our initial October, so it wasn't quite as cold as it was in a February, but yeah, so a little bit of snow earlier in that morning. So there we are as a group, and that's just a bit of an idea about where we were in terms of across the world. So little old Australia here. I was very fortunate to have Kay Cossington, who's the English FA women's TD. So Kay was lucky enough to have a second mentee in Sweden, and Mullen, and we were actually, the three of us were lucky enough to catch up. We planned a rendezvous at the World Cup, and so we caught up in Nice for a couple of days and did a few exercises while we were there as well. So, but yeah, so an awful lot of space and distance, a lot of language barriers as well. So it was definitely a very interesting, very, very interesting process. So I was fortunate enough to work with Kay. My time in England was spent over two different sections, and so I had 14 days altogether in England. Sort of spent my time between St George's Park and Wembley. Kay actually travels up the way that they work there on a Monday and a Tuesday. They work out of St George's Park, and then later in the week generally work out of Wembley. That's obviously changed since COVID, and pretty much everything's being done at home now. But Kay's travel up to St George's Park from where she lives is about 3.5 hours. So she generally uses that time on a Monday morning heading up, and on a Tuesday night heading back to do a lot of meetings over the phone, etc. So yeah, so we actually spent. This was actually the under-19 elite qualifiers, the Euro elite qualifiers for the under-19 women's So we actually watched some games there, spent some time with some of their management team, and then, as I said, went back to Wembley, did some work there. We went back a couple of days afterwards, so it was an up and down the motorway experience, which I'll touch on a little bit later on. Some of the tasks, in terms of formal tasks that I did, was that I presented to Kay in my role as the Junior Matildas head coach. We had 2 rounds of Asian qualifiers and an Asian Cup tournament in between. So we utilised a model that's practiced quite well in terms of a mentoring review sort of stage, is that the what went well and the even better if. So I presented that to her in a boardroom at Wembley in the offices of the FA. So just as if I was presenting to the CEO or the board after a tournament. So in terms of that live match analysis, so that would be me. That was me scouting. I watched 4 games, as I said, throughout that tournament. Watched 4 games there, and then that particular night, I'd go home. I'd basically spit out a full scouting analysis, and then I would present it back to Kay the next day. So realising and utilising those real time pressures that you do, in and around international tournaments. So from that, developed game plans. So, for example, Turkey played against Sweden, and the next time that the English team were going to play was against Turkey. So I developed up a game plan for their next match against Turkey. So once again, using those same parameters with the game times and turnaround times. So I had an opportunity to also work with the under-16 national team coach for the under-16 female team in terms of a plan, do and review. So once again, a model that English use and a lot of countries use in terms of how they go about planning their day-to-day, if they're in camp, their day-to-day activities, the actual executions of the sessions, and then the review stage afterwards. So that was another task, if you like, or another opportunity for us to then share some information around how we did that in our respective environments. We also worked on a bespoke coach development plan for myself. So I'll show you a little bit later on, but a little bit different to a coach development plan in terms of what you presented, Midge, in terms of actual session delivery back and a formal assessment afterwards. It's more like a long-term career where you're heading plan, which was a great opportunity to sit down, do a lot of reflection, do a lot of talking about goals and actually where you wanted to head. I was lucky enough to go and see a couple of women's Super League matches and training sessions. Tanya Oxtoby, as you know, a compatriot of ours from Perth, is the head coach of Bristol City women's over there. So I was able to organise with her, catch up, watch a couple of sessions, match day -2, match day -1, and then their game day. So Tanya was absolutely fabulous, like in and out of the dressing rooms, complete time, full access to everything, even to being able to have 2 minutes with her as she walked across half-time to anything else that I noticed that she could deliver to the team in a half-time discussion. Something else I was able to really sit down and do a lot with Kay was in and around their DNA and their blueprint for success. So the women's blueprint for success is almost sort of finished. It's formed around their next long-term strategic plan, and it's about them being able to unite a nation and win trophies, and how they do that in the women's game, all the way through from their grassroots all the way through to their national team programs. Final third football is an interesting aspect. There's a coalition of 6 countries, 6 of the national teams around the world that the head coaches and their technical directors actually get together and talk about aspects of the game that they think they want to improve in the women's game. And final third football is something that Kay's really passionate about. So we looked at that after the World Cup and looked at all the, looking at the objective data and how the final third football, where the goals were scored, what she, is trying to deliver in terms of their blueprint for success, how they can make that better for their English teams to score more goals and give themselves an opportunity to be more successful in tournaments. And then coaching attributes. So it was an opportunity to sit down and actually look at two different aspects of coaching. So what are world-class coaches, what are the attributes that world-class coaches have? And we also looked at what are the world-class attributes that youth coaches have. And I think it's this is through a lot of self-reflection, I've sort of found this particular aspect of coaching quite interesting, where a lot of people will say, "Oh, I'm not a development coach. I'm not a development coach. I'm a senior coach." And I often just ask the question of those coaches, "Well, don't your senior players want to get better? So don't they want to develop? Do they want to continue to be better?" So I think sometimes there's the aspect of youth as in just the development perspective, and versus sort of senior, and are there any attributes that are different, and what does that lead to in terms of what you want to do next? So if we have a look and see here, they're kind of the three big pieces that I've worked over 16 months sort of to do at the end of particular tournaments, reviews, etc., and was able to relay them back to her and present them to her. There's just an opposition preview for their game against England. There's the blueprint for success, which, as I said, is Kay's had an awful lot of time in the last couple of months to work on and refine that and have that ready. And then that's just an example of their final third overview in terms of where England's goals came from, where they can be better moving forward. Is there any questions about any of that? No? I think one of the things, and this is probably Briac, I was sort of trying to wave to you to say I'll talk about that in this presentation in terms of that informal stuff. I honestly believe that the best kind of mentoring comes from serendipity. So it's those occasions that you do sit down and with peers or with your actual formal mentor. With people outside of the game, with fans, their reactions, their perceptions. I think those fortuitous conversations that you have are actually, it's this, in the office, it's the water cooler conversations, that you have when we could go to the office and everyone wasn't working from home. But I think that, for me, the mentoring, that informal mentoring, that serendipity came when we had 3.5 hours on the way up and then 3.5 hours on the way back from, Wembley up to St George's Park. So that was a really good opportunity for us to just talk football, talk life, talk, everything. And some of the best moments that we got from each other were just in those conversations. And once again, when you do spend 3.5 hours in the car with someone, you've done that groundwork and you have a really good relationship, and you can be quite truthful and honest and authentic with each other, and that's kind of, I think, where we forget that that's actually really a part of mentoring. It doesn't have to be that formal task oriented process. It's certainly the conversations are really important, and that relational aspect is really important. So this is what we've also got our QAS, Football Queensland QAS girls program has a number of teachers as our coaches. So just there's a lot of informal mentoring that obviously goes on in my role as one of the QAS coach mentors. But the other aspect is that being teachers, they actually like structured learning. And so this is something that I'm working on with 4 of the female coaches at the moment. And it's literally, it's a coach development plan. So it's not just about the actual doing on the grass. It brings in other aspects of what they want to be able to do. So in terms of looking at their areas of strength, that's something that I think, working with a lot of female coaches over a number of years, that's something that females, I think, do first, is to talk about their areas of development, or what it's the same with players. When you ask, generally you might ask at halftime, well, how do you think we're going? They'll always look at the things that they've done wrong first. So I think language is important, and to be, to try to lead the discussion around talking about areas of strength first is extremely important, and trying to identify that. A lot of people, I think, find it very, very difficult to actually talk about their areas of strength. They know what they want to do better and what they're doing, not so well. But I think areas of strength, something that we need to harness more out of discussions with our coaches. And the other areas is around creativity. So just like, for example, with Kay looking at the final third entries, it might be something that you find with your team, or that the mentee might find with their team that they want to try to improve. So it's actually looking outside the box and thinking about an area of creativity that they want to be able to work on, and then set it up as like a pet project. One coach I was speaking to not long ago talked about they want to actually really build their own template, so it's easy for them to be able to, and then build their own library of resources. So we talked about different ways that they could do that, but just thinking a little bit outside the box, not just on the pitch, with the bibs and the markers and the balls. And obviously it's RAG, red, amber, green, and it's something that's a fluid document. You can go back and modify and change at any time. And lastly, we talk about that plan, do, and review stage. So, one of the aspects, obviously, being a coach, is that you've got to take a look at that technical, the technical aspect of being on the grass. So your planning, your actual execution, and then your review, your self-reflection. How do you want to improve that? At the stadium is, looking at match day. So that might be, how you're delivering the team lineup. It might be, something that you've seen that, the players have a bit more angst. Sometimes youth players as to senior players have a bit of a different perspective about how the team is delivered. Usually, match day -1, senior players well and truly know who's in the starting 11 just by who's set up in your game training. So it might be something that you're talking about at halftime, or how you deliver your key messages after the game. Remembering not to speak to players in the heat of battle, but how you want to deliver key messages afterwards. In the team room is about how you manage the whole situation. So it's about managing your staff. So you've got medical staff, you've got assistant coaches, you've got TDs, you've got parents. You've got an awful lot of different aspects to actually manage in and around the team room. So that's really your complete management of everyone. So your staff, everyone wants a piece of you at times. The head coach, everyone wants to have that 5 minutes. So how do you manage that? And then lastly, it's looking at the other. So that's once again, you could look at it the same lines of your area of creativity, what you actually want to get at. There might be a particular aspect. It might be or the aspect of, you've found that you received some feedback about, you're not projecting your voice well enough. So it might just be because of a lack of confidence. So you might, work on, say, doing some scripts, getting yourself some scripts to get yourself ready to talk confidently. The old fake it till you make it confidently out onto the pitch. It might just be something like that, but it gives an open opportunity to work on another area that you want to develop. And then lastly, it's just that remembering that we, that every expert was once a beginner. And that's certainly an aspect that I think that, should not fall on deaf ears in terms of, there's the old analogy of you have to walk before you can run, but, that's not always the case either, depending on different situations. So just remembering that any expert was once a beginner, and to share the knowledge and experience that you have with those that want you to share that with them. Any questions?
Ray, Dave Large.
Oh, there's a nice informal mentor. Hey?
Yeah, well, you never give me a call. Listen, Darren, there's a lot of things, components in there, whether it be inside the game or outside the game. And I think it's really important when you're looking at a mentor, you're not just looking at one person. I think that, you might need 2 or 3 mentors, all with different strengths and weaknesses. So I think you've got to be careful as a coach that you don't, just go with, I'll stick with this guy because he knows everything, because he may know everything, but I just believe that there's a lot more information from everybody rather than just one person. So, it's something I tried to do, and I even went to younger people for my information sometimes, Yeah.
Well, certainly younger people can teach us old dogs about technology, can't they, Largie? So there's a classic example straight up.
Absolutely.
And I think you're right. I think it's kind of like, as I said right at the outset, it depends what the mentee wants to get out of, that relationship. I can draw on a number of, a number of example, a female coach about certain things, and actually there wasn't a lot of us around. So in terms of getting a female perspective about some things, I pick people outside of coaching. So it would be somebody in business sense, or somebody in an administration sense. So you can certainly find something from that if you really want to develop a particular aspect about yourself, if you look hard enough, you can certainly find somebody within your sphere that can bring that to you. So.
Exactly, and the case in point is where you're talking about somebody with a lack of confidence. You don't necessarily need to go inside coaching to get that strength,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It might be a voice coach, a singing coach. How to actually use your voice, project your voice. Yeah. There's a lot of different ways that you can get that information.
If you don't pick up the phone, or if you don't ask, then like you said earlier, you'll get as little or as much. But don't wait for people. Go and seek it, and then you'll get it.
Yeah, 100%.
That's me. I'm done. I'm finished.
Good to see you, guys.
Hi Ray, John Murphy again.
Hiya.
Yeah, Ray, thank you very much for your presentation, your insight, and meeting with Kate Cossington. And I know her well, and that's great. And I think you mentioned thing is so important, and I think it's something that all of us as coaches, TDs here, and whatever people's positions are, that when they go into football clubs, that it's maybe something for the future, and it's hard work. It's hard work for clubs because of budgets and things and volunteers. I get all that, and because I come from the grassroots myself, and that everybody should have a little bit of a mentor and an induction and all that stuff, and eventually when they come in as coaches for all these people who are at football clubs here, is it goes from mentor, and we have a, dare I say, a counsellor or a counsellor who can help us on the next bit, and then they end up with a Craig Midgley or Warren Moon or a Matt Smith and things like that can really work with them and guide them, and they might have two or three people on the journey within the football club that helps them, one, stay in the football club, but two, develops them. And if we can develop people, obviously we know the impact that has on footballers, of all genders anyway. And I think it's really good. I was really inspired by your presentation. So well done, brilliant.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. I think one of the other aspects too, in terms of, it's not necessarily sometimes learning something, but sometimes when you can sit down and actually, receive a lot of feedback from somebody, it helps you to actually validate your own knowledge and experience. That's one of the aspects, I think, of mentoring that is really understated, is that it's not always about you wanting to learn something, but it's actually sometimes you're validating that you actually have got knowledge and experience. And and it might just open up your eyes to, you know, to different aspects within your role. But that's one of the really understated benefits, I think, of having a really good, honest mentor is that, you know,
and praise you for doing something nice.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Okay, guys, conscious of times, if you don't mind, I'll bring up the presentation again just to finish off, but I would love to hear from you guys in the task prior to Ray presentation, what kind of activities you do within your club to develop your coaches. Something different that we haven't heard so far, please. There must be something. Okay, something that is definitely an area of improvement then for all of us moving forward.
Sorry, David, I like to call them mirror moments. So, you know, like it really is, it's a mirror moment where you actually, you might ask a question, you know, of a colleague, of a peer, or whatever, and actually get them to yourself in front of the mirror, but actually hearing that from somebody that you know and you trust and you value that their opinion is actually a really interesting exercise.
Anybody who wants to share something with us, guys, please.
Hey, David.
Hi, Matt.
I just wanted to echo a little bit on what John was saying, and I know my screen's been off. But I had to explain that my wife was put out, so I had you guys in the background, but I had the cooking dinner and listening with the earphones in. So very good content. And I put some great notes down myself. But obviously, John and I are new into Brisbane City, so we obviously want to try and create a culture and environment of education of coaches and players and whatnot. And I thought we thought probably one of the best ways to kind of start doing that is to let us be the guinea pigs. So during COVID, we actually, you know, we had some video of ourselves coaching. It's quite interesting, especially for myself in my early stages of my coaching career. So using that as a guinea pig, we held like a Zoom meeting where we got our coaches to critique me within one of my game training sessions. So, you know, we tasked them with, we gave them a week's objective. We gave them some points in which we wanted them to follow. And then they had to basically answer back to me and John with their answers. And I think that kind of opened their mind as for them to kind of say, well, if our coaches and technical directors and coach development officers are happy for us to critique them, then when we come down and observe training, or when we use our VO machine and record the training sessions, then hopefully they'll become more attuned to kind of that sort of feedback from us.
Yeah, and basically links well with what Mijli mentioned before, that basically making yourself vulnerable in front of your coaches, which initiate the relationship with you, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's just one little tool. Like, and obviously John and I and Dean have spoken at length about different ways in which we can try and create that engagement and try and bring our coaches and players on the journey of the vision in which we're only new, but yeah, it's, you know, we thought about starting processes, but that was one thing that we felt kind of instantly gave our coaches a bit of opportunity to hit some of the learning points that we want them to kind of think about and look at, but then also opens them up to criticize us too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, you try. If it works, good. If you get a good engagement from your coaches, good. If it doesn't work, try something else. But yeah, that thinking outside the box, it's very important. Look, I'm going to share my screen once again. So some reflection. Yeah, I don't want to talk about this. So basically the question to you all is, do you have a mentor? And if not, are you considering to maybe find a mentor moving forward? The second question is, are you mentored to others? If not, are you willing to be a mentor to somebody else? That's the starting point. Then obviously, love to see if you can self-reflect on your own about, okay, where and when does the mentoring happen? Is it on the pitch? Is it after the training session in the changing room? Is it remotely online, Zoom meeting? Is it a football chat in the car, going to training, as Ray mentioned before? Is it something that might happen in front of a drink, in front of a coffee, in a very relaxed environment where you talk to your coaches or to a peer, whatever, and you take out something of it? And when you are in contact with that person, mentor, mentee, doesn't matter, what do? Do you have any questions for that person before meeting him? Or, I don't know, just think about how you can basically, get something out of those meetings with your mentor or mentee. And guys, more than welcome for you to bring up some example. And last one is, once again, touching on Craig, individualized plan. Do you, as a TD, do you have some plan for your coaches, how to improve in specific area? And Ray as well, they both brought up some good example of how we could potentially help our coaches become better. Is there an appraisal at the club at some stage at the start of the season, middle of the season, end of the season? Don't know. It's questions for you, you don't need to answer, but if someone wants to share, please stop me down now and jump in.
David, I'll just go back a little bit. If anybody wants to jump in on that, that's fine. But just based on them things you've put up there, it's just sort of triggered something in my mind as well, that we, knowing your coaches, so not forget about how they deliver and that, knowing their characters and knowing what makes them tick is really, really important. So, we did behavioral charts and, the old disc profile to try and really get a grip of what your coaches are like. So you mentioned going for a coffee and have an informal chat, and that's what some people like. And then Ray mentioned the other side. Some people want it really formal. They want to see a process and exactly how it works. And so I think if us guys who could be a mentor, really start to know the actual person, and how they like things to be given and to be heard from. I think that's another crucial part, because I've got a real bag of coaches. Some are very spontaneous coaches, some are very quiet, and me being that spontaneous type, sometimes I've got to think about how I'm going to relate to this quiet person, because that's not me. So I think us having a good idea of who our coaches are, and really getting to know them a little bit more about them, I think that's really, really important. So, yeah,
good point, Craig. Thanks. Yeah, absolutely.
Jump on that point off Craig as well. Do you mind?
Hi, Taz. Yeah, absolutely. Jump in.
I'm being quiet today. I'm trying to keep my mouth shut. But no, Craig just made a good point, and I don't know what it's like at everyone's clubs, but I assume it's similar. The amount of different nationalities we have at East is incredible. Colombian, Chilean, Peruvian, Italian. We got everything, every nationality. So
we were all the same.
Yeah, of course, we're all the same, but culturally, and what I think we forget as well is the standard of coach education in some of these countries and what's being delivered. Just a very brief example. I have a good Colombian coach at the club, but he came and he just had no drive in his sessions. And I said, well, what's going on? Why aren't you driving them? And he just looked at me and went, oh, we don't have to do this in Colombia. They work hard or they leave. So, things like that where I think as a coach, TD, coach, mentor, coordinator, whatever, it's important to get to know them, and take those things into account. Everyone's going to have different strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, it has, absolutely. Yeah. So once again, the emphasis on this aspect is very, very important. Okay, just to finish off, basically a few points, something to highlight or something to consider. Peer review. Peer review, it's very, very important. Some example, maybe bring a couple of two coaches together, 2 or 3 coaches together, let them run the session. One run one part, the other one run the second one. Maybe put them together and let them provide feedback to each other. On the end of it, that could be one example of developing your coaches, and that's from a peer. It's not from a TD. You know, it's another level, and it might initiate good conversation between those 2 coaches, and they might be able to help each other. So, and look, once again, there is no right or wrong. It's just something that I had in mind, and I wanted to share it with everyone. And I'm glad that, and which links with what Ray said before. And yeah, I used to call the informal meetings with other coach educators or my mentor, football chat. I'll ask them, can we have a football chat at any stage? And I perfectly agree with Largi mentioning that it's the person who has to initiate the contact and seek for feedback. So if you are interested and if you really want to grow and improve, go knock at the door, ring them, call them and say, guys, I need help. Can we have a chat? I need your feedback on this, on that. What do you think about this and that? We need to break them bolts, you know. We need to really stress them in order to get better. Simple as that. And yeah. But yeah, so thanks Largi for mentioning that. And having a plan. And we saw a few examples with some target and objectives moving forward. Make your let's say your progress more tangible. It might work, it might not, but having, let's say, some objective in front of you, and you as a TD for your coaches, it might help their career and their progress. I heard that I had this one at the end because I heard it from a few people. An honest feedback, a person who can tell you, Davide, your session was shit because of this or this and this. That's a mentor to me. Someone who is honest and tells you, look, that's not good enough. Or yeah, so an honest feedback, not always a negative, obviously, but even a positive. Davide, I love the way how you did that, you know. But look for some people who you can trust and they can give you an honest feedback. And last one is only one. So as Largi said, no, maybe not. Maybe 2 or 3 people, yeah? Even more if you have time to spend with them, you know? I personally have 4, 5 people that are really important to me in football. And yeah, one is my official mentor. The other 4 are other people that I can, yeah, I can ask for suggestion at any time in different areas. So guys, that's it from me. Some highlights from tonight. But last couple of minutes before we need to shut down, anything guys you want to ask or share, please do yeah, come forward. And thank you all of you guys.
David, just from me, thank you to yourself, Ray, and Craig, obviously, for your presentations. They're invaluable. Without doubt, coach education is massive. It's as important as player development, and if we don't have it, we don't have player development. It's as simple as that for me. So thank you very much. I hope you take on board the comments. I think like-minded coaches need to get together more. They need to share some information. And at times I understand it's delicate. I understand because of the different clubs and different ways of doing things. I get that. But without doubt, a coaches association here in Queensland is absolutely required. to develop the game further in this new model that is going to come out of it in the new year. And there's people here who've not spoke tonight, but I tell you, the people who've not spoke, I tell you what, they've got so much to offer anyway. And Zoom might not be their platform. The platform might be for when they get round the table and they meet with each other. And so well done to all the three presenters. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Anybody else, guys? I mean, from now on, I would say if you have to go, feel free to go. No worries.
I just want to say hello to all the Manchester United fans. I'm a Liverpool fan, and John, that's thanks for that red wine you sent me because of Liverpool winning the league. So appreciate that.
I hope we don't live to see another one. Is all I can say, Mitch.
Yeah, another 30 years will be all right. Yeah. You're only borrowed it for this season, mate. Anyway, it's tainted.
Thanks for the opportunity, guys. See
guys,
you.
on behalf of Football Queensland, thanks, Craig. Thanks, Ray. Really appreciate it. And thanks, everyone, for attending. If you have any questions, just send us an email.
Great work, guys. Brilliant.
Thank you. Well done. Very good.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.